Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. All four board members are in attendance. Any public comments for items not on the agenda for discussion, not action? Hearing none. Town reports. Yay. And I don't feel like you have to say any more than you absolutely have to. Mika's lost her voice.
I managed to lose my voice. I don't know why. So bear with me. So the TA report, is the only one that I have on here. We did start receiving some of the other reports from the other departments, but they didn't quite make it into us, before the, packet was finalized. So those will be added, to the next, meeting that we have. And then the treasurer's report at the last meeting too, I had said, that I was hoping that would be on here. The bookkeeper was not able to reconcile the checking account. I did coordinate to have, Marjorie come out and help to bring, it up to speed. But in light of everything that took place last week, that ended up, changing, and so I have not reconnected with her about coming back. I figured that could be a discussion with the board about what they want to see with the recent changes. So with the TA report, the first thing on here is last week Jackie Robbins called to let me know that she was resigning effective that day. She did provide 30-day notice. So her last day in the office will be November 21st. She did have a recommendation of an individual that is very qualified, who is interested in the position that she was actually business partners with. And she was hoping that the board would be okay with him coming with her on that November 21st meeting, just to see what the scope of the work would be. Board members could meet the individual to see if it would be a good fit. I think it would be the great thing to take that into strong considerations, because I think that he would have her contact and communication part of health, and the transition would probably be smoother than you advertise for another assessor and having another vacant position. Any questions about that?
Carol.
So is he a business partner in the assessing business? Okay.
And he, yeah, the two of them are business partners. They do different, towns, and he's actually, the previous town administrator, who's his stepmother, so he's familiar with the town.
Sounds good to me.
So he'll be, he'll come with Jackie if you're all okay with it. He'll come with her on the 21st. She arrives on the 8 o'clock boat and usually leaves on the 2. So that'll be her last day. And then, if you want to, who wants to put him in at one time to come and, meet him to see if he'd be a good point, then that would be the day.
I have a question. Are we under any obligation to advertise and post for such a position?
So with everything that I've read and everything that I've looked at, there is no legal obligation for having to advertise for positions.
And I would think in particular, given that they're business partners and one person is leaving, although Jackie's position is an appointed position, is that
It
correct?
is an appointed position, so you would have to have an agenda item for the appointment of a new tax assessor, just like you would town administrator or any of the other positions.
And the
was
appointment
hired-
where we appointed her, it was her, not her firm, is that correct?
It was just her, correct?
Okay, okay, thank you.
And she was hired without a job being advertised.
Do we want to have a meeting that day and have all four of us meet? Or at least however many of us can be there, meet the person, or we could just have 2 people be there. That's 7 days after my surgery, I can be there.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday and she's coming out on the 18th.
I think it would be good to have a couple people here, at least.
So do you want to do
It's Tuesday the 21st. I'm teaching, so I really can't be there. But if you guys can.
Okay, then we don't have to call a meeting.
I can be available.
All right, so Mark and I, does that work for you guys if Mark and I meet with them? Okay, so we don't have to call a meeting for that. Thanks.
Next on the list is the fiscal year 23 audit. So at the beginning of last week, the auditors did come. There were a couple of them that came. Initially, they were anticipated to be here on Monday and Tuesday. Kind of all hands were directed towards them those days, so they were able to collect what they needed to really start the process. And they did end up coming on Tuesday. He is aware of the transitions that are happening in the office. And so the owner of the company their goal is to turn around and have this audit complete with a draft for us within 30 days. So they want to try to, and he said that they don't really see any reasons for this audit not to be final by the end of December. So I think that's good news going into the budget process to be able to be caught up with all of the audits because we were 3 years behind at one point, so.
Right.
Next thing is elections, so on Tuesday, here from 8 to 8, there'll be local and state election. There are very lengthy, complicated state questions. The individuals working at the election are not able to provide any kind of recommendation or guidance. And so what the office staff and the registrar voters is hoping is that people can get themselves familiar with those questions ahead of time. There's a very fat booklet at the office. It's on the website. So if people can take a look at those questions ahead of time, that would really speed up the process for people being able to answer the questions the day of election fully.
And for the benefit of the public, anybody who's listening, Maine Calling did a series of explanatory sessions, their 1 hour daily call-in thing on each of the, what is it, 5? 8 items. Carol.
So I'm wondering, if you could maybe, so the booklet you're talking about was prepared by the state. So I'm wondering if maybe sending out one of your text message things to just say that's available, because I think that people get those, read them. And I think that would be a good idea, because it is very, I mean, it's also on the vote. It's pretty complicated.
Is that booklet available online? Do you know, Vika? Great.
It's on our website.
So the text message might refer to that website as well, so that people didn't have to actually come look at the
Right,
paper.
so they could just look at it.
All right, we could do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
The dredging, as you could tell, the equipment has arrived. They were due to start today. The process should take about 3 weeks. They are hoping to do the dredging at nighttime. Gennaro was communicated individually, and then I saw he put something online a couple of days ago about making sure that the fishermen were aware, because this is the time they're taking out the gear. They'll be in contact with CTC about any needs with the boat, and then with the town. I did connect with the lead gentleman of the project and let him know that I'm on my transition out. CC Bob on the email so the board can be the point of contact through this transition. Any questions about that?
Carol.
I've just had a bunch of people ask why they're doing it at night, and do you know why they're doing the dredging?
The lead guy on the project, his preferences is to do the work at night, and he said that that's what they prefer to do. The group of guys that are working on it, and when they found out that the daytime work could interfere, it was that much more appealing.
Okay.
So they'll try to do most of it in the night is what we were told.
Okay. I did see them working down there today. It's interesting, it's a different piece of equipment. It's not a drag line, it's an excavator. And they were quite effective at how they were using that very large excavator to feel out the bottom. It was pretty,
And that was one of the
Cool to watch.
requirements with Army Corps sending it back out for bid, was the equipment was gonna be specific to the work that was not
Yeah.
able to be done before.
so for whatever reason, they were working, I want to say that was 10 or 10:30 in the morning today, but they're probably finishing up whatever they started at night. I'm guessing their preference is to work at low tide as well, but I'm just guessing. Yeah.
I think I'd have to go back to the notes, but I think that it was more going to be around the high tide because it would have interfered with the barging and through the
Getting in there,
conversations.
yeah.
Which was another appealing reason for them to do it in the evenings and through the night, so then it didn't impact CTC. And then the next thing is, Bennett's Cove. So with, everything going on, I have not had a chance from the last meeting to, this meeting to actually submit anything to the DEP. But before doing so, I received a phone call and had a conversation with the gentleman. And then asked them to put it into email form so it could be shared. And then attached is the email that was received from him. Bennett's Cove residents, and the attorney representing, the individuals had contacted, providing, to his understanding information about what the town was planning to do. And he was very adamant that those plans were not going to be in accordance with anything that they would be able to pass. So in my phone conversation, I suggested that before making assumptions based on the language that was provided by parties that weren't involved in the direct project, that it would be helpful to actually speak to the parties involved. And so I had not followed up on any of this. I kind of think that with me stepping out, that the board or whoever else going forward should continue these communications and figure out what the next steps forward should be.
Because Ron Wood is the person at DEP.
Yes.
Thoughts, Mark?
I think Victor's point is well taken. I think we should just wait until we try to get a new town administrator in place for this, and any discussion. This may be jumping ahead to your next subject, but any road work recommendation from CV Mahar, I also think we should put the brakes on that and just let CV Mahar know that we're transitioning to some new administration over here, and we're not ready to talk about anything to plan for the road work, if there ever is any done down there. That's my opinion.
Other thoughts? Carol?
Yeah, I think we should wait until we have a new town administrator. I don't see that the timing's critical.
Right.
And I think maybe asking that individual to come in person or virtually to a meeting with the board.
That person being Ron?
Yeah, I mean, asking the DP, and I'm sort of surprised he's died, but, I think having a direct conversation with the DP, too far would be worthwhile for everybody.
Other thoughts? Okay.
And then, kind of, moving on to the next thing is a communication that was received from Nat Tupper. I think goes in the same line of you can wait or you can, continue discussions. So as you know, there's an agreement between the two towns. A while back when, there was the, mutual meeting where, Matt from CTC and myself attended. Mark was gonna come, but was unable to make, or I think he forgot the date or something. It was, just, a joint sit-down discussion with, Yarmouth and us about, what the next steps would be, with the repair that had been done, the temporary repair on the wharf. And that discussion, their planner alluded to the fact that it looks like more of a general study needs to be done of the structure and the wharf itself. And what that would entail, and so this email is really Nat, kind of, providing their general quotation about, what the next steps could be if the town and, government want to proceed with that, and so, I, had just like with the previous one, let him know that I'm in transition out, so with whatever communications going forward, whether it's me passing it on to somebody else or the board connecting with him to kind of hold off until, further notice.
Would that be the joint standing committee's work?
I don't know.
Or,
My opinion would be yes.
and that's you and me, right?
Well, it isn't, right now, it's just you. It was
Okay, we
you, it was
haven't-
you and
It's me
Jen.
and Jen, but,
So
okay.
if we're going to appoint someone else to join you on that, it should be a discussion and a vote.
Right, and
Appointment.
we can wait for that, yeah. Carol?
So I was, the facilities committee has been working on trying to get this group of people that are, looking at everything on the town property. Seems like what we should look to do, and what I remember is to try to set up a meeting with Yarmouth. Talk about that project, the the cell tower project, and we could address this too, and it seems like it'd be practical to go over there, because Nat is also done at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
it seems like trying to set up a meeting between now and the holiday would be a good idea. And, it could be, I just, only got a month to kind of get together on
Now
that.
Tupper's retiring and then, Bill Shane is gonna be retiring too, so I think Shebig is gonna lose two big, advocates who know a lot of history about the relationship, so I think being proactive on the Shebig side would be really important.
Do we? I guess we really, could we elect a second person for the joint standing committee or accept a volunteer from this board for the joint standing committee tonight, or do we need to?
I think we should put that on the agenda.
Okay. Should we go ahead? Well, we can't really then go ahead and set up a meeting with Yarmouth until.
I don't think there's a chance we can have a meeting in 2 weeks, so I would start moving in that direction. I mean, I think getting the wheels in motion to meet with the town of Yarmouth would be a good thing to do, because, maybe you can meet until Thanksgiving.
But that means setting a date with Yarmouth before we know who the other person is besides me. Mark?
Are you done?
Yeah.
I agree with Carol. I think it's not on the agenda to do so tonight. I think it probably should be on the agenda for the next meeting. I think you can go ahead and contact the town of Yarmouth and request that we're interested in a discussion that would include, at least the Cousins Island access issues. I'm not sure if the communication, emergency communication issues need to be addressed in any way, or whether the
Well, I
facility.
think we need to, I think we should connect with the town of Yarmouth. I don't know much about it, except for
Right.
what realm. So I think it would be a good opportunity for athletes to have a meeting about those two projects, and maybe Bill Shane gets pulled in for the one that's about the communications tower. Since they are both, is Bill retiring at the end of this year?
No, he's got a little bit longer.
So anyway, I feel a little urgency to try to get that meeting set up. And then the facilities committee may want to.
I agree. Could I say one more thing, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Not Tupper's done at the end of this calendar year with the town of Yarmouth, as we all are well aware of, and I would like to see some sort of something go out from this town to Nat Tupper on behalf of all of his cooperation and efforts throughout the years that have supported and benefited Shebig Island. I believe that Nat, along with Bill Shane from Cumberland, have been very helpful in helping us secure the parking that we still enjoy at Blanchard Lot, the parking that we have up at Route 1, and the access that we have over at Cousins Island. I believe they were very helpful. I think some sort of a token from this board at some point will probably make it more official at the next meeting or something, make a suggestion, but even a card or something that just says, you know,
Maybe a card from, maybe we give the island an opportunity to
yeah.
participate somehow. We can think about it.
Yep, he has been outstanding to work with in my experience.
Okay.
Do you want me to send him an email and just say that the town is looking to try to set up a, a meeting prior to your departure?
Yep. And
just
the
tell him.
items we want to talk about would be the wharf and the communications facility. And anything else?
Tell them that I'll follow up next week sometime.
Okay. I think that. Yeah, that covers, TA report.
Okay. One item I'd like to kind of tack on to the TA report would just be an update on the code officer situation. Tammy Munson has been acting in that role now and has, basically caught us up on, outstanding issues. There are obviously still questions going back and forth on current stuff, but, having not yet been here, she's done what I think is a really good job filling in, and she's had plans 3 times now to be out here. Personal issues got in the way, family issues, and then the Lewiston Auburn situation got in the way as well. Hopefully she's coming out this weekend. One request, if I can tack this on, I had asked Vika if we could provide a cell phone so that any calls that she was receiving from Shabig were on a phone that is not her work cell phone. And Vika pointed out we've never done that before, so that the board would need to identify a source of funds for the cost of that cell phone. She asked that it not be anything fancy, just a simple Android phone. She doesn't care what service it is. I think both AT&T and Verizon work out here in different places. I can't really say if one's better than the other. Do we have cell phone contracts? Do we have cell phones for the town at all?
No, the
None.
town does not have any cell phones for any employees. The minimum that the town does. And it goes through the budget is, cell phone stipends
Yeah.
and, there's really no rhyme or reasons of how it started or who started it. I know Marjorie always hated it, and the previous code enforcement officer didn't even have it. So
Didn't have a
the
stipend.
town didn't even provide the previous code enforcement officer a cell phone stipend, which the stipends that are provided to a couple of employees like the fire chief. And it's $25 a month. So there's no budget line for a code enforcement officer cell phone stipend or a cost of a phone or a monthly payment plan.
Any thoughts? Carol?
Yes, that was one question I had. So right now, we don't offer cell phones to, we don't have Shabig specifics, town of Shabig specific cell phones.
We reimburse full or partial.
And I don't know how the new TA would feel about that, but some people, and Marjorie preferred to have her own cell phone and get reimbursed, rather than have.
With every contract that I'm aware of, there was a cell phone stipend, a monthly cell phone stipend that was provided.
So
There
what,
was never a discussion of
yeah.
otherwise.
So what would the cost be to get Tammy a cell phone per year?
From what I found online, I think we can get an Android phone for $20 or nothing. And then the monthly fee that I'm aware of is $50 a month. But I've only shopped for myself, and that's not the kind of phone I bought.
Is there enough money in the code enforcement officer budget to support a phone? Because if we took it out of that budget, as long as we don't exceed the budget.
I would think there would be, based on the hours that have been paid to date. And the rates and all, we think there would be.
And if I was a CEO, I'd want to have I wouldn't want people calling my personal phone.
Right.
So, I mean, I think if we can support it out of the existing budget, I don't have a problem. But I mean, I'm fine with it.
Do you have a immediate available off the top of your head snapshot of where we are year to date on that line item versus budget?
No, I don't.
So do you think, I guess, and that was my kind of last question that we haven't seen, I mean, the last budget we saw was through August. So I think, do you think I mean, for the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from now, are you expecting, so you're saying that Marjorie has to come down in order to reconcile the budget?
With the few days a week that I'm in the office helping, I don't have the capacity to be able to do that. And the bookkeeper is not able to complete that task.
So how far behind are we in terms of, putting, are we behind in paying the bills? Or
No, just the bank reconciliation.
Okay.
The bills are still getting paid. I keep track and I look at the account on a regular basis to make sure the money's coming and going and flowing properly and that there is no fraudulent charges. He has worked on the bank reconciliation, but just, making sure that it's zeroed out. That hasn't been done. What I could do is I can email you the expense report if you want to get an idea of what that entails. I can do that first thing in the morning.
And so what I would suggest is if we put it on the agenda for the next meeting, we have an idea of what it's gonna cost and that we can support it out of the budget. Cause I don't know how to decide without knowing that. We have to have a sort of fund.
You would, I think to do it properly, I mean, there is no line item for that. And so you would essentially be making a decision and taking it out of the overall code enforcement officer budget, but you're also providing an expense that has not been budgeted or hasn't been appropriated or voted on. So I think you really should make it a vote. And I mean, I think the appropriate thing is to take specific amount of money out of contingency, so then you're covering yourself, because then you're basically saying to the taxpayers, we appropriated $40,000 for salary, but now we're going to take some of that money and buy a cell phone for a new code enforcement officer when that wasn't voted on before. So I think contingency would be how you would kind of be the most transparent about it, unless you want to halfway through a budget plan create a budget line that didn't exist before.
So I think the way to do it is to get then a cost estimate of what it's gonna be and put it on the agenda and vote on it with an anticipated source of funding. And I think we could do that at the next meeting. I know she'd probably rather have us do it tonight, but I kind of feel like we have to go through the process.
I'd rather we do it tonight as well.
I mean, do people have her cell phone number, or is that how they're?
No.
Okay.
We
Okay.
haven't advertised it, no.
So
I don't even know,
right, so I think they should just use email until we make this arrangement. That's,
It's been difficult for me for not have a cell phone. With the work that I'm doing as a clerk person on a volunteer basis. And I think our service level to the people who are trying to ask her questions would improve dramatically if she had a cell phone that they could call. And if she was able to call them back when she had a moment, as opposed to everything being done after work hours at her other job.
I agree, but I
Can
don't.
I continue, please? I would, so the cheaper phones top out at $20 a month for the cost of the phone. And the most expensive service plan for an individual that I'm aware of is $75. I think we have 8 months remaining in the fiscal year. I would entertain a motion to take no more than $800 out of contingency to provide a phone for the code officer. That was cancelable if the phone is no longer needed. If anyone wants to make that motion, great. If not, we'll have to put it on the next agenda. How much is left in contingency at this point?
About 800.
There's, yeah,
You said 48.
Could I explain why I'm not willing to make a motion?
Did you say 800 or 4,800?
you joked that they-
I mean 8,000, I'm sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. So, could you, I'm sorry, you may have confused me. Could you, state what you just stated again?
I said I would entertain a motion that we take no more than $800 out of contingency to purchase a cell phone and the monthly charge for a cell phone for the code officer for the balance of the fiscal year. Only on a plan that could be canceled at any time.
And what is the monthly charge?
I'm figuring 75 a month. It's probably less than that, but I'm trying to not understate it.
You're talking $1,600.
75 times 8 is 600. 20 times 8 is 160, so I said 800 or less for the balance of the fiscal year. And at the end of the fiscal year, if we don't decide to budget for it next year, we can cancel the plan. Or if we wind up not needing it this year, we can cancel the plan.
And you're sure you can do that? Because mine you can't.
There are programs that they're promoting these days called prepaid plans. They are less expensive per month and they are less rich in features. But if you prepay them, they're less expensive and you can cancel at any time. Sure.
So my other question is, this would be a cell phone that belongs to the town of Shabbat Island. The code enforcement officer would use. I mean, it's a Shabbat Island, and not.
That is correct. Mark,
I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator to expend up to $800 from the Selectmen contingency account for the benefit of a cell phone for sole use by our interim code officer, Tammy Munson.
you have a second?
I second it.
Mark, sorry, discussion, Josh, second. Any discussion? All in favor? All four. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So. The who is going to set all that up and. Kind of the follow-up process that will go, because I would assume that by the time all this transpires, the bills, when they come in. I'm not gonna be in the office anymore, so the next town administrator, and so I just wanna make sure that any. Follow-up is accurately set up,
Do we have a town credit card?
yes.
Am I able to use it? I'm going to town tomorrow.
Yeah,
If I'm able to use it, and if the board agrees, I'd be happy to make the purchase on the town's credit card. And then the bills would come to the town office.
okay,
If that's improper in any way, please let me know. I'm spitballing here, I don't know what I'm doing.
I mean, I think you guys doing this motion, in my opinion, isn't the proper way of doing it, but. I think there's no reason why the town credit card can't be used. To make the initial purchase, the only thing that I would advise is that you don't set up the monthly payments to be charged on the credit card, that it would be a bill paying us, so then. Needs to be through the warrant process, you know.
Not sure they'll do that. Bill? I think for the prepaid account, I think it has to be a credit card, but I can ask. but I only wanna do that if the board's comfortable.
Any documentation you can get,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Not a big
What was
deal.
that? And then how are you just about?
I said, I'm willing to take the town credit card when I go to town tomorrow and set up the phone. I can try to get them to send the monthly bill to the town office, but if they say that it's cheaper to put it on the town credit card, I would agree to do that.
And I think if you said you're gonna prepay a certain amount, then we.
You prepay each month. You pay at the beginning of the month instead of the end of the month. That's the basis of the savings.
I'm not that up on this.
Does it sound okay to everybody? The problem, do you happen to have that card with you? 'Cause I'm going on the 8th.
No, it's in the office in the safe, I don't carry it on me.
Okay. Let's figure that out.
I can meet you there a few minutes before,
Oh, that'd be great.
just shoot me a text, cause I'm on kid duty first thing in the morning,
Yep.
it'll be the last thing in my mind.
Okay. Thank you. All right, anything else relative to the TA report? Anything from the public relative to the TA report? Thanks, Vic. A regular business. To have the first reading of the proposed amendments to the traffic and parking ordinance and take any necessary action. My assumption would be that we read the amendments as opposed to reading the entire ordinance. Would that be appropriate? You know,
You
Vika,
mean right now?
isn't that what a reading is?
Yeah, you don't need to read the whole entire thing.
Right. Okay, so there are two sections of amendments. Two proposed amendments were in the document, the Word document that I received. I'll read those first. So these apparently are carryovers. Under definitions, section 103, we would be adding a commercial vehicle definition as a vehicle with a gross weight of 10,001 pounds or more. And under section 108, relative to the Bennett's Cove area, the proposal, again, this was in there before. Item A, commercial vehicles shall be permitted only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Exceptions may be made for municipal and commercial use of Bennett's Cove Road outside of the general requirements set out above for emergency situations. Emergency situations are defined as an unforeseen combination of circumstances or resulting state that calls for immediate action. B, overnight parking of commercial vehicles, parentheses 12 midnight through 7 a.m. on Bennett's Cove Road is prohibited. C, parking commercial vehicles in the turnaround area at the foot of Bennett's Cove Road is prohibited at all times. And then the next item under, and this one,
Page 3, yeah, you missed page 3.
thank you. And then the most recent proposed revision is under section 104. It would be a new item D as follows. It shall be unlawful to place, park, or leave any vehicle or physical object in a public way owned by the town of Shebig so as to unreasonably obstruct the safe passage and or view of two-way vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic. Initial violations of this section will be consistent with other fines in this ordinance. After 3 violations and a written registered letter of complaint to the owner of the vehicle or object of obstruction from the select board of the town of Shebig, the town would then have the ability to remove or disable the vehicle or obstruction with a parking boot and fine the vehicle and vehicle owner an additional $100 for any costs incurred to the town. All outstanding fees and fines will be required to be paid in full for retrieval of property or vehicle by its respective owner. Any appeal of enforcement of this ordinance shall be heard by the town of Shebig Select Board. Exemptions from this section will include the southwest side of the Stone Wharf Road and temporary parking on the sides of public ways to accomplish needed work at a residence or business and to allow for private gatherings for short, reasonable time periods. Any comments from the board? Mark?
So the one that he just read was my effort to address at least one ongoing situation that we have of a resident that doesn't seem to agree with, where the road is and where the property line, began. And I realized that, and I'd like to say this is the first reading of this, so, nothing has to be finalized or voted on tonight. We can wordsmith it. We can have a second and third reading, which I would suggest that we do. One problem with this proposed amendment that I put in here is the fact that the town of Shabig does not have a insured registered towing service. So in there, it says the town will at some point have the right to remove the vehicle. Right now, we don't have a contract with a tow truck service who is, licensed and insured to do that type of activity, and we don't have or use a parking booth. Having said that, should we have one or both of those in the future? I believe we should look into having that option. I believe that some people just don't seem to be able to behave themselves enough to keep their stuff out of the main roads around here. And I believe that we should get tougher with our parking and traffic ordinance. I believe that some people scoff tickets. I realize that we have put them into collection, and maybe that hurts their credit. I don't know what the ramifications of that would be. But that's not a very strong way to keep the roads and the public ways clear for the public and taxpayers of this community. So that's my reason for putting this in here. I hate to have to do this, quite frankly. I wish people would just cooperate. And I know that this one individual was spoken to twice by the sheriff and refuses to move the vehicle because he believes that his property line is out into the road, and he believes we shouldn't have been able to fix the road, even though the road's been there for a long, long time and has been paved, plowed, maintained, patched, and now finally paved by the town of Shabig and the town of Cumberland a long time before that. So that's my reason for putting it in here. It's not just to get at one individual. I believe we should, we're gonna have a parking and traffic ordinance. I believe we should reasonably and sometimes forcibly enforce it.
Other comments from the board? I just have one question. If we were to purchase a boot, who would install the boot? From what this language says, such an action would be at the direction of the Board of Selectmen. So that would happen in a meeting. But who would then actually place the boot?
My assumption would be the current traffic enforcement officer, but I don't know that.
Okay. Any other thought? I agree with Mark. This should go for at least a second reading. Give us a chance to digest it and think of any revisions to language, any feedback from the public that might happen between now and the next meeting.
If I may.
Yep.
We may also want to just check with our attorney for any problems with the language. Anything that sticks out to a trained legal eye that they could say, I don't know about that,
Sounds like it's something that would be in the wheelhouse for Marjorie, for Natalie, or at least someone at her firm.
When you get closer to kind of having it finalized, then typically the ordinances do get shot over to.
Yeah, they may see something, I was pretending to be an attorney when I wrote this.
All right, so let's plan to bounce it off Natalie or someone in her firm at her discretion after we have the second reading. Would that make sense?
She's out of commission for a couple of weeks on medical leave, so she's out in mid-November.
Well, she did give us, the name of someone to speak to in her absence, so.
Yeah, this may just be my opinion, but there's no rush with any of this, in my opinion.
Right.
There's no earth shattering
Right.
reason to. The stuff that you read about Bennett's Cove is all good stuff. That's already in effect as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
Can I make just one comment? So on page 7, you have attachment B, that's part of this. With everything that's taking place with Indian Island and the town and
Oh, yeah.
agreement that is gonna have to go, in front of the town voters. If you're doing this ordinance change, you might be wise to eliminate that attachment, seeing as those 5 parallel parking spots are no longer being provided on at the hub.
Good point, good point. And, under communications, we'll be talking a bit about Indian Island, but, I'll, on this also, see page 7. All right, thanks, Mika. Point. Anybody else? Comments from the public? Michael? Please.
Not specifically on the ordinance change, because I'm in general agreement with it. But there's a lot of issues about the roads around the Chandler's Cove, Bennett Cove area. There are a lot of places where well, they don't know where the Rossum thinks they go, but they don't. There's not, nobody really knows where they're supposed to be compared to where they are. And I would like to point out that Donna wrote a report for the town of Cumberland years ago about that very question. And I would suggest that the select board take that into account, and she recommended various courses of action, like corrective deeds with the abutters and that sort of thing. None of that happened. But then this is the kind of problem you get, so you don't do stuff like that. So I would suggest you go back and read that. And then see whether some of the recommendations she made, which is, at least 15, 20 years ago, maybe still make sense. In terms of arrangements with the butters and with property owners generally, get things sorted out down there, so you have some basis to enforce something.
Thank you, Michael.
Could I just let Michael know something?
Go ahead.
So Michael, we did have a formal meeting based on that information that Donna helped supply down there with, I don't know, I can't remember, were you at the meeting, Pam? Yeah. And Central Maine Power was there. And there were some problems trying to move the road.
Yeah.
And some of it was physical, some of it was power line right of way and location to residences if they move the power lines over too much towards the old Kuntz house. And then when you get to the other corner, down where Pam's driveway and Danny Todd lives, and the Island Riches.
Yeah.
That was a little more doable down there, but it would have turned in to the bushes, and then it would have made quite a wide swing and taken almost all of the existing parking from Island Riches away. And this is just my opinion. I don't speak for everybody on the island, certainly. I just didn't feel that it was going to be that beneficial overall as to where the road lies today. The gain, I didn't see a big gain changing what we have today, realizing that those corners are still quite sharp And so I didn't really back changing it, and I know that at least Donna and I did not see eye to eye on that. I can't remember how all of the neighbors felt. I know that Rod McCormick is not happy about it. I'm not sure the Todd Rich family who owns Danny's house really cares or cared. So I just wanted to let you know that we did formally try to address those recommendations, and you're right, the layout and the surveying and stuff. And that's not the only place on this island, by the way, where boundaries meet roadways, so I kind of hated that we couldn't change it and make it better without some pain and finagling, but and CMP did not seem very interested in moving those power lines, quite frankly. So that's what happened. Thank you, Bob.
All right, any other comments from the public on that topic? Moving on, 23-096. Facilities Committee to hear a proposal for the work involving the power supply of the Public Safety Town Office Building for the three parties involved. That being the tower project, the Facilities Committee work, and the broadband requirements. This is related to the power feed from the pole and the backup power system, the generator that would serve all three needs going forward. So in the packet, there was a proposal. I'm not going to read through the entire proposal, but the project professional fee, I'll read a bit of that. Because of the complexity of entities involved, we propose to provide the work as an hourly basis plus direct reimbursable expenses. We've estimated a reasonable number of hours based on our experience. They do not, however, include unforeseeable circumstances. And then it details out the number of hours for the different kinds of work. And this is specifically to come up with a design, if you will. This is not at all entertaining the cost of installation. So the estimated hours and total costs, the estimate comes to $7,600 plus reimbursables. And it then goes on to talk about how invoices and billing would work. I have a letter from Dave Bruner, who's on the committee and coordinated getting this proposal put together from Port City. Dave's email says, Beth and I are glad to help facilitate this with Port City. Facilities Committee has been happy with their performance so far on the town office public safety project, and we feel they would do a good job with this work. The projected work scope is about what I expected in terms of time to budget. If their work scope increases from their assumptions, we would need additional funds. For instance, if the project needs more than 2 meetings. It may be prudent for the board to appropriate the funds for the estimated fee plus some amount of extra funds to cover any additional work items that may arise. That way design work continue without having to get further board approval for any extras. And to be clear, they would only bill for actual time spent. So that's the proposal. Any thoughts from the board, comments, questions? Mark?
What is the fund that this is gonna be coming out of? Is there a facilities fund that this is coming out of?
So if you do proceed with this, I would recommend that you would take it out of the building facilities.
How much is in that, do you know?
There's a little over 46,000 in there,
Thank you.
and that would, cover this kind of work.
And I'm sorry, Bob, Dave is recommending that we authorize a little bit more than the 7,600, is that basically what he's saying?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a number, $10,000 or something?
He did not put a number here. No, he did not put a number in his email.
And this work is to design the system,
Design
the layout with the site plan.
site plan engineering.
That's all
electrical
that this
engineers.
is for.
Carol? Yes.
So when you say design the system, I am a little confused about So the bulk of the hours are electrical engineering specs, drawings, et cetera. So what is that for?
Designing. So the proposal would result in an engineered design for the electrical from the pole to the building with backup in between. And it would show the location, confirm the location of each of the required elements as detailed out in the plan.
Well, what the proposal says is that he will make recommendations for the best solution. Whether or not they should combine services,
Mm-hmm.
and if the overall existing service needs to be upgraded.
Correct.
He will determine the current standing of the generator of the site and if it can be shared.
Correct.
So that's, to me, not a design, it's sort of an assessment of our electrical capacity. So that's why I'm just trying to understand what we're getting for the product. Other than that, I see that there is a site plan of the building. And, you know, I guess that's the part, since it's the majority of the work, that's, the site plan is 12 hours and that's not my rate for the building, but I guess the electrical engineering specs and drawings, when he says specs, are we specking out some kind of, I guess I don't understand what that portion of the project is.
My understanding from conversations on the committee is that that includes looking at what's needed for each of the three elements that would be drawing off this and confirming their requirements would fit either within that backup system or within a new backup system, and deciding or recommending whether it would be one backup system or multiple backup systems.
Right.
And we have enough information from the town. I guess the other part is what we know what the town of Cumberland and Yarmouth are gonna need. Do we?
We know what the tower needs.
Yeah.
The town of Yarmouth, the town of Cumberland only need their part of that overall tower project. We know what the tower needs.
Right, they need a generator, right, and what's that part of it?
There was information provided by, those towns to the town of Shebeg. And, it was that information that then was attached with all of this information when we got sent. So then this, site planning project is based on the information that they've received about what broadband needs on the site, what the tower project would need on the site, and what the improvement for the town facility as a whole would anticipate it needs to be.
The tower proposal or the tower design assumed that it would either use backup from the existing backup generator or that it would have to provide additional.
So I guess what's confusing to me about this proposal is it says estimated hours 26, but if you add up the hours, it's well more than 26, so that's the part I just don't understand.
Good point.
Yeah, may I?
It's 26 plus 30. I think that must be a typo. If you add up 6, 12, 4, and 4, that's 26. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, I think you're right, Bob, because I was also confused by that. Just like Carol said, 26 hours at their rate is not 76 hours, so
Right,
that must be a typo.
However, if you divide 7,600 by 26, you get $292 an hour. None of their hourly fees are over 160. That's a typo. If you,
I understand, I'm just pointing out that it doesn't jive with what the proposal says, so I think we should get that corrected. Right?
you're proposing that we not approve this tonight?
Well, I think we need to approve I think this is incorrect. Yeah, I'm not saying we can't approve it tonight, but I think it needs to be corrected.
I agree.
The proposal as written is an error.
correct.
So I'm not really, I don't really want to approve a proposal that lists out 26 hours for $7,600 now.
Can we approve some amount over $7,600?
Can I comment to that?
Well-
So if you were to approve this proposal based on pending changes, I understand to what David Bruder suggested about approving more to that. If there are changes to the original proposal, it would have to come back to you as an amended contract. You would have to approve that anyways. So, while I understand what he, it would have to come back to you for a vote one way or another, so I wouldn't, recommend, approve it for more than what this says, because it would have to come back to you come back to you anyway. Where you could make that decision at the same time.
And I'm gonna disagree slightly for a couple of reasons. One, if you take 7,600 and divide it by 56, which I believe is where the typo is, you get 135 an hour. If you look at their schedule of fees, which range from 75 to 160, 160 being principal, 75 being administrative services, but consulting engineers 150, staff architect is 130, architectural designer is 120. I think it's a typo. I think it's supposed to say 56. So I would like to see us honor the request from Dave and Beth that we authorize some number over the 7,600 because this is the nature of the quote, because of the nature of the quote. Carol.
I would be willing to approve this proposal if we change the hours to 56. Estimated hours, 56 hours, and correct that. And the estimated total cost of $7,600. That's reimbursable. And personally, I'm on the same wavelength as Vika. I think we should approve this amount, and if they need more, then they should come back to the board and ask for more. I mean, I don't think it's gonna slow down the project if this is a time and materials quote.
Mhm.
So it's either that or we put an amount not to exceed of $8,000 or something like that. I mean, I'm not comfortable putting a lot more money into this because this is only an estimate, and in my experience on the other side of the table, if you give them $10,000, they'll spend $10,000.
Good. Any other comments? Anything else from the board? Public? Yes, Pam? Pam, can you step up, please?
I agree, I agree with Carol, that it should be marked up, before the board, votes on it. And to consider adding the word design and a not to exceed amount on the reimbursable expenses.
Thank you. Do we have a motion from the board?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. May.
Just a quick question. I know this is an exclusion on accessory building
Can you
designs.
come up
Those,
to the owl, please? One to pick an owl, any owl.
Right there.
accessory building design, I know this is an exclusion, the site plan and none of the accessory building drawings. At the bottom of the first page.
Right.
Are those just stock buildings that are gonna just plunk there, or is there gonna be more charge to design accessory buildings?
Those accessory buildings are being designed by the individual projects, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
So broadband has already designed their building, correct, Michael? Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Carol?
So I'd make a motion that we approve the Port City architecture proposal with the correct estimated hours of 56 hours for an estimated total cost of $7,600.
And do you have an amount not to exceed for the reimbursables?
I'm
Are you just-
fine with 7,600. I guess, no, because I don't know what they're gonna do.
Okay. All right. Is there a second?
And the source of the funding would be the
Building facilities reserve account.
I'll second
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. One opposed, Mark?
One opposed, no. May I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So typically I would take this and, you know, I would connect with them, sign it and send it, with the name on it being Bob or Mark. Do you want me to forward this to one of you and you continue the communications? I just want to make sure that there's,
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Oh,
okay, so,
I can send this copy now and give it to you and mail it to him tomorrow. Does that work?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna send it.
All right, next item, 23-097, to review the draft ad hoc finance committee document and take any necessary action. So, Carol and Mark took an assignment meeting to come up with a recommendation for the ad hoc finance committee. There was a copy of it in the packet. Any comments from the board regarding the direction here? Mike, the only question I had, under membership, the 3 members of the public at large, I think based on our last discussion, we were going to post that and ask for volunteers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah, and I took that, I think, from the facilities committee thing, but, you know, public at large could be somebody from New York if we wanted, but, I didn't know if the board wanted to constrict the membership to residents or anything in particular.
Any comments from the board on that question? I would consider, entertaining volunteers who were not, residents, just to expand the pool of available volunteers and expertise.
Agreed.
Just, that's all, that was my own thought.
Any other comments from the board, questions? Any comments from the public on the topic at hand? Seeing none. Would entertain a motion to move forward with the draft ad hoc finance committee as per this proposal.
Go for it.
Yeah, I make a motion to go with the draft ad hoc committee as written.
Second by Carol. Discussion? All in favor? Did you have discussion, Mark? Sorry.
I just want to make one quick comment.
Sure.
I think it's gonna be good to get this group starting the finance committee, basically what they're gonna be doing. Once we get a finance committee up and running, I'm hoping that their primary focus is more capital improvement than operational. Again, not minimizing the importance of keeping an eye on the operating budget and the departmental budgets and making sure that they don't go awry or go up too much without good reason and cause. But I think a 2, 5, 10-year capital plan is really where we have not shined in this town, because I just don't think we've had the time and energy to put into it, quite frankly. So I think that's really where we need to get as a community, is to get a longer term capital improvement plan with some real defined goals that the community can hopefully get behind reasonably. Thank you.
Any further comments before we vote? There's a motion on the floor, all in favor?
So is this ready to be advertised out and hung up around town?
Yes. Yep.
And I can, you can, this was provided as a Word document. But you can, I can clean it up and send it.
Thank you for that. And then item 23-098. Deliberately put that after the prior discussion item to hear an update of the budget schedule and take any necessary action. Does anybody have any thoughts that we need to revise the budget schedule based on this previous discussion and or based on discussions at the last meeting, or are we good to go with that budget schedule? Carol?
My only thought is we should, personally, whatever, if we have a new town administrator, I think we should review that schedule with that individual and then decide. I would wait and see if there's a suggestion. Because it seems like that would be the appropriate time to make a change. Personally, I'd like to start a little early, but, I think that's what we talked about in some plan at the last meeting.
Okay, any other comments?
Quickly, this is a little straying a bit off of the actual budget schedule and leaning towards the budget meetings that we've had, at least in the last few years, which I've been guilty of trying to run. I think we've gotten bogged down. So again, I hope the formation of this finance group gets this process more efficient, more useful for the general public. I think we just got bogged down on small ticket items and departmental stuff that was really not going to change the budget and the mill rate very much, quite frankly. And again, without beating a dead horse, the capital items is where you can really make or break your budget quite quickly. Thank you.
Yep. Other comments? Okay. Other business? Anybody? All right. Communications, Nika, you have any?
I think anything that I had would have forwarded to you guys. I don't think that there were one of you. I don't recall of anything. I have that. Needed to share.
I've got a few, an email today from Ted Ballard, the Hook Group, having received the information from the surveyor and they've had time to talk through it. They had a couple other requests for the surveyor. He's now completed those. They're now ready to have a Zoom meeting with delegates from the town. I would assume 2 people from the board would suffice. I'm willing to be one of them. Does anybody else want to be part of that discussion?
I'm happy to do it if Mark, I mean, if somebody else wants to do it, fine, but I'll do it if nobody does.
Go ahead.
Carol's the winner. Right.
Don't worry, I'll have plenty to say when we get ready to lay out the parking.
Well, and I think if that's another reason to hold off maybe on this until we get that decided.
I think so too.
Yes, precisely. Yep, yep. Okay. I'll get back to Ted on that and then we can set up a schedule for that Zoom. Got a text message from a citizen regarding a tracked vehicle going down the road from the Stone Pier down paved roads to Soul Road and then down to the current project down at the Hamilton Beach area. Are rubber tracked vehicles allowed on our roads? Do we have anything that speaks to that anywhere? I didn't see anything in the traffic ordinance.
What do you mean by rubber?
Well, so tracked vehicles can either have steel tracks or rubber tracks. Rubber tracks are thought to have less of a negative impact on the road. After I got the text, I did go down there and look. I didn't see any damage to the road, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't damage subsurface.
Her might know, but This-
You just left. Mark?
So I'm not aware of anything in our parking or traffic ordinance that, disallows rubber tracked vehicles from traveling on the main road surfaces. So, you know, certainly steel tracks would be a big no-no. I did see a machine one time pivoting on one of our roads with a rubber track. And I actually said something to them.
Especially in the
which I did
summertime,
not have
it can
the
rip it up,
authority to
yeah.
say to them, but the road had just been paved. And I just said, maybe that's not a great.
I think it's the same.
So I think the answer is, I don't think we have anything in there that prohibits it.
Carol?
And I do remember there was a discussion where it is supposed to be registered, so if it's a non-registered vehicle, theoretically, it's not supposed to be traveling.
That is a good point, and it's clearly not a registered vehicle.
Right, so that is kind of how they
Yeah,
can use that as leverage.
I guess my suggestion with being the road police of Cheviot Island sometimes, probably it would benefit the taxpayers to have something in there that prohibits the travel of tracked vehicles on our paved roads. It just, there's no reason not to have a trailer. That's what trailers are for. You know, Bo has a trailer. You know, Dugas has a trailer, so on and so forth. You don't see those vehicles traveling in town,
Right.
certainly. And, you know, so it might be something that we might want to consider adding.
Meanwhile, should we make a phone call or write something in the form of an email? I wouldn't really do a letter, or just a friendly warning to that company, asking them to please not take their unregistered vehicle, tracked or otherwise, down the road.
That would be okay with me.
Should that come from the TA or the road commissioner?
Can I make a quick suggestion?
Sure, yeah.
So the Langs have been in close contact with the contractor. I would recommend that maybe pass it on to see if they can, you know, say FYI. For what it's worth, I've seen a lot of that work being done, passing past my house. I've seen times, I mean, I haven't seen everything happen, but they've had large trailers with them, and there's one parked at the end of the road, so.
This was actually the vehicle coming off the barge,
Off the
going to the
barge,
job
yeah.
site, so it went up Wharf Road in the entire. And then for whatever reason, well, actually, I can't say that. I can't say that. It might have been dropped off the trailer at the road that's in between Caps Road, right at the head of Caps Road. That's where the picture was taken that was sent to me. There's no reason they would have dropped it off a trailer there, though, so I'm guessing.
I
it came
don't know,
up.
I watched
Anyway.
them drop trailers and, you know, then down Soul Road.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Does somebody want to volunteer to call John Lang, who I think has been kind of coordinating things for that group? It's not unusual to call the contractor or to call the homeowner in such situations, I would say. Just a friendly call saying, can you ask your contractor to not do that? Mark?
I'm not interested in calling John Lang, but if you'd like me to call Robert Anderson, I'll call him.
That'd be great.
I graduated with him and he knows better.
Volunteer. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Mark, for doing that. The last one I had, I got a text message regarding an unpermitted structure that appears to be crossing the highest annual tide line. There's some question. Highest annual tide is difficult to identify without a full-on survey. It's the state's recommendation that surveys be used, but it's the lower feet of the structure have seaweed all around them. So it would seem that it's crossing the high tide line. That was a text message from a citizen. I'll be passing that along to the code officer for investigation. Carol?
Have they filed a complaint?
That citizen has not filed a complaint.
And I guess what is, when you say it's a permanent structure, so what is?
It's an unpermitted structure.
Oh,
There's
an
no permit.
unpermitted.
As far as I know, I went looking, it's kind of hard to tell because that Google document went AWOL. But, as far as I can tell, there's no permit,
But it's a new structure?
Brendan.
Hmm.
It's actually a metal structure that is a series of stairways and, you might call them landings, but they're more like decks, patio areas as it comes down. It's pretty major structure. I did suggest to that citizen that we did have a complaint form and process. But it's also in the select board ordinance, I think that it's incumbent on us to report things that we see to the code officer. I think that's in the select board ordinance, it's either there or the code ordinance, but, yeah, so. That's it for correspondence from me. Anybody else? Okay. We have the minutes from October 18. I think a couple of corrections went back via email. Any other corrections, or does anyone have a motion to offer? Mark?
Move to approve the meetings, minute meetings from October 18th, 2023.
Second.
Second by Josh. All in favor? Carol, good?
Yeah, this is the one that I corrected your minutes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember where.
Okay, I'm fine.
You were right. I was wrong.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll put something back then.
Yeah, you win. All right, items to be placed on a future agenda. I've got, joint standing committee conversation regarding Nat's email. And then perhaps wrapping such a meeting with Yarmouth into a adjacent meeting with all three towns relative to the tower. I've got under regular business at our next meeting, some sort of recognition card gift of some sort to both of the retiring town administrators from our neighboring towns, both of whom have helped us a lot in the past.
Right, so I don't think Bill is retiring.
I think he's retiring at the end of the fiscal,
Okay, so we got time for him.
yeah.
So, second reading of traffic, and maybe that's at the next meeting, maybe not. And then, adding the hook to that document for the second reading, adding an update or some sort of correction, even if we don't fully have a fully baked parking plan in place, some kind of correction in that page 7 appendix regarding parking at the hook, in some way indicating that A, we're no longer maintaining that road that goes down, and there's no longer a parking area down at the bottom. So that's all the future agenda items I had. Did you have anything, Mika?
There had been, in email communications with you and Tammy, there was a question about fees. She had made a recommendation about doing something, so I think there should be an agenda item for adjusting or implementing a new fee or something. I'd have to go back and look at the email that she had, but.
Okay. Okay, I don't remember that, but thank you for remembering it.
New fees for what?
It was something that she had caught, through the building, or through the,
Oh,
application process that she wasn't sure what it was
Oh,
supposed to
code
be, and she had, yes.
Yeah, I know
she
what-
had a recommendation,
yeah.
and then the board would need to kind of put that onto their piece.
So if a growth permit expires without a building permit being obtained within, I believe it's 60 days is the number. If that permit expires, then you have to reapply with a new fee, the same fee. Her suggestion was that we put an expiration date on building permits if they don't get executed in material fashion.
We don't have one?
We don't.
No kidding.
Correct. We had a few people who said, you know, because of everything that happened with COVID and everything, they came back One person came back a couple years later and said, do I have to redo my growth permit? And the answer turned out to be, no, you don't, because you pulled your building permit. And then the question was, does the building permit expire? And we don't have that at this point, but we should have, so
Yeah.
that's a good point.
And
Yes, Carol?
on the code enforcement, so that software demo, is there anything we want to do about that, the code software?
Well, we've got a second presentation Thursday or Friday, or a presentation of the, costs, the proposed cost of that. What Carol's talking about is, Carol and Tammy and I think, Mark, were you on that?
No.
No. Heard a presentation from a company that has a, basically an online portal approach to building permits, where your request for a growth permit or a building permit, electrical permit, septic permit is completed online. And all of your communications are with the code officer are then in a process flow, series of steps. Take a step, gets checked off, inspections are scheduled, flows into a calendar. It would result in all of our new permits being paperless, but also the process would be streamlined both for the code officer and for the applicant. And then eventually we could entertain the idea of taking all the paper that we have, scanning it and entering those PDFs into the system in a batch fashion. There are companies out there who do that kind of bulk scanning in these situations. But if we decided to go forward, we need to have an agenda item. We need to figure out where the money was going to come from.
No, we're still waiting for the cost.
Yeah,
So that's a little premature then, and
Yep.
then. I think we should put the stone pier, an update on the stone pier on the next agenda. I
Good
have
point.
not connected with Sam, partly because I was tied up all day. He did try to get back to me, but I think we need to do this.
Yep. Yep. All right, other agenda items? Nope. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mark, second by Josh, all in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Warrant, I'm gonna look at this, yeah, I can't, I have a thing, I really don't want to be trying to look at the warrant for,
I agree. I don't think we should do.
so I will look at it down office tomorrow. I'll sign in and go through it. If anybody wants to do it now.
I'll do it now. Just get out of the way. All right. I'm on.
Perfect.
Carol, thank you to you and her for that work on the